from across the globe. This is welcoming you to SRTV studios. Yes, well, we are reaching you both from London, where the initiator of this program is, talking about Daddy Chris. And the Abuja studio is also live this morning with Mary. Mary, how is Abuja?
Ah, Good morning, engineer. Good morning, Mr. Obaka. Abuja is fine this morning. How
Okay,
is Asaba?
okay, great. In Delta Studio, we have with us engineer Meshach.
Yes,
You are welcome.
always a pleasure.
Okay. Yeah, fundamentally, we'll be looking at the newspapers this morning. But before we delve into the newspapers, because this is basically a current affairs analysis agenda setting program in order to contribute to how Nigeria, our dearly beloved country, can be better than it is now. So we on this platform, we try to see how we can contribute to the ongoing narrative on how we can get the nation of our dream. It is hoped that Daddy Chris will be joining us at a stage in this program. But until that is done, this morning we'll be looking at a very fundamental thing: education. We'll be looking at our education. That's the human development sector. And we'll be trying to see how we can have a creative edge to it. Because there was a time in this country that people were coming in here either to be teachers or to be lecturers or to be students. Some of us in the university had foreign students in the same class with us, living in the same hostel with us. But today, in spite of over 63 federal universities, 63 state universities, and 149 private universities, all put together, you'll be able to see the number of universities we have. You still find out that the greatest pressure that our forest is experiencing is from the education sector, because people want to get into study in Canada, people want to get into study in UK, people want to get into study even in Ghana. Then we begin to ask, what has happened to the ones talked about Ivory Tower? The Ivory Tower in Nigeria, the tower that is expected to provide the solution to how Nigeria can develop. What has happened to it, so much so that it's no longer attractive? And our first choice now is to see how we can send our children to study abroad. And from there, perhaps they get foreign citizenship. And from there, perhaps they start working. So the issue is, what has gone wrong with our education? And how can we restore the creative edge to education? Because fundamentally, education should be able to point the way forward. Yes, I still remember the likes of Obama, who said any nation that can out budget you in education will also outpace you in development. That is talking about the established nexus between education and development. So what has been our story with respect to funding of education, and what result are we getting from it? The issue of ASU and the broken academic calendar and the rest of that things. Of course, the brain drain and all that. See, there are a whole number of issues, but we are worried about these issues. That today, we want to dissect the issues and see how we can also point the way forward. And because if we are able to sort out this sector and see how these 63 state universities, 63 federal universities, and there are even more now, and about 149 private universities all put together, if they are able to function the way they should function and have a creative edge, then perhaps we would have solved one of our major problems in Nigeria as a nation. So perhaps let's take it from the seat of Nigeria's administration, that is talking about Abuja. Mary, what do you think is fundamentally flawed and is the issue with our education?
Okay, I think first of all, I'll start by saying lack of creativity is one of the problem we have. There was a time the minister of Abuja went to Uni Abuja, and you could see him lamenting bitterly that all the lands, right, in the university actually captured a lot of lands in Abuja that they are not using. That these lands would have been used for something meaningful. Meanwhile, they are not using it. That if it happens that all this land that the university have acquired for themselves as Uni Abuja, right, lands, if they will not be using it for other things that can maybe yield something positive in the country, he has to revoke it, he will take away the lands. The same thing with, you could see University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Unibadan. These are one of the old universities we have in the country. And if you happen to visit these schools, you get to understand that they are not small schools. The kind of land, at least I've been able to visit University of Nigeria and Nsukka, the kind of land that school alone consume, and they are not doing anything with it. I feel like why I say we lack creativity is schools should be an avenue for income earning. People should be able to make money from schools. This lecturer should be able to find a way that these schools will be making money. You can't kind of have all these lands for yourself and you call it school lands where you cannot use it. But we have people that study agriculture in school. So what are they doing? No practical. You have agricultural department and they don't even know how to farm. You understand? Even the theater arts that are so-called school right have today, what have they been able to do from it? We are not doing things that will aid us money in school. We just tend to.
Okay, Mary. Yes, from what I have heard you say thus far, that our education lacks creative edge. That our schools, universities have land because naturally they are communities of their own. But that even at that, they still have issues with even establishing bakeries, establishing farms, establishing fisheries and all that. And the question really is, has it always been like this? And the way it is now, is this a trajectory that we should continue with? Engineer Mishak.
Yeah, thank you very much. Interestingly, when you look at the topic, it's a very elaborate topic there. We're looking at education, the need for a creative edge. Fundamentally, we shouldn't be restricted to tertiary education. Of course, with the acronym tertiary, it entails a level of education that has premised primary, nursery, primary, in fact, basic and secondary. So I love to start from basic education. We have formal and non-formal education. Education is elaborative in its descriptive tendency to create a state of need for every human being, because education starts from our homes. At birth, we start education by informally learning things. The first teachers are parents. Informally, the children learn a lot from you as a parent. They mimic you. They learn their first words, their first thoughts are the words you learn with them. You teach them in your communication, whether verbal or non-verbal, with them. Then we go to the basic education, which is nursery and primary education, without which we can't go further. A lot of times, our educational system has been faulted because of the lack of commitment on the part of government to prioritize the educational sector as the most important sector in the economy. And we attach too much priority to the defense sector, and we live in so much insecurity. With the educational sector prioritized, the insurgents will not be there. The kidnappers will be reduced. Criminality and crime will be reduced. Now, when we talk of basic education, now I have found that over time with constant research that the people that have a need for education the most are the impoverished people. Because besides being poor, they are vulnerable, they are gullible, and they are ignorant. Ignorance is the greatest killer of mankind. Because of their ignorance, that is why they are very much available to be manipulated. At that stage, I feel sick every day when I drive around town and I watch children of school age during school hour, probably helping their benefactors. I don't want to say parents right now, because in most cases, upon investigation, we have found that most of them help their benefactors. They are helping either their auntie or their uncle who says they must go and do this before they go to school. They must go and sell pure water. They must go and sell snack. They must go and sell the donuts they have baked, or the.
That's talking about the out of school syndrome.
Yes, out of school syndrome. And when you look at that, the basic education will be fundamentally affected. And they tell you, when you finally get this, they will tell you, there's no money. That's why they're not going. The best period in our educational evolution was during the Second Republic, when we practiced a democracy that had some substance, or rather some semblance of ideology, when the UPM states actually preferred what was in their manifesto during their campaigns, which is free education. Free education. And the free education is not just restricted to tuition free. They gave free meals, they gave free books, they gave almost free everything between 1979 and 1983 in UPN states. And that was able to create a leeway for those that do not have the means to sustain their children's education. But after the military came, all that died, and we went back to the status quo. Majority of these people become infidels, become miscreants, become gullible tools in the hands of the political manipulators who utilize their lack of education and ignorance to put them on the path of destruction. With a standard basic education, with a fundamental budget for basic education, we can have a template for secondary and tertiary education. But most times we have failed at the basic education level, building onto the secondary education level. They failed because government didn't prioritize, like I said, and government didn't take the welfare of the teachers at that level very seriously. The teachers in Nigeria are the most underrated and underappreciated. I grew up, like Mr. Barker made reference to, I grew up having my mathematics teacher in primary school. I can't forget his name, Mr. Ebenezer Takiotu. He was a Ghanaian. I had Kweki. Kweki was a Ghanaian. Was teaching integrated science also. We had so many Ghanaians. We had Lebanese that were teaching. Indians were available. Indians were mostly in my secondary school. At that period, we were driving Ghanaians away from Nigeria. We had a lot of Indians. A lot of Ghanaians were teaching in primary school. We had Indians and still Ghanaians in secondary school. We had Lebanese. We had a lot of foreigners. But with the proliferation and infiltration of the educational sector by fifth columnists who are bent on seeing that the educational sector does not thrive to sustain their own selfish interest, these people started returning home. And with the transformation and the trajectory of insecurity, of course, they need to go to safer places. And of course, we lost a lot of Ghanaian teachers when we were chasing Ghanaians away from Nigeria in the early 80s, into the mid 80s. And that was what happened. Moving forward, let's come to the secondary education. At the secondary education level, we equally failed again. At secondary education, the government moved from 651 or so, I can't remember now, to 6334. Now let's look at where they failed. Entrepreneurship is a basic emphasis in most European countries and first world countries. Development of entrepreneurial skills at the mid-education level, at the grade level between grade 6 and grade 12. especially between grade 6 and grade 9, which is between JS1 to JS3. The emphasis is on entrepreneurship. It's on skills acquisition. But you find that most of our schools here will lack even introduction to technology laboratory, inter-science laboratory, reagents to even do practicals, sewing machines for home economics laboratories. We have refused to understand the importance of building these children along entrepreneurship line, so that even when they don't go to school, because some children will drop out at junior secondary, at that time it is expected in 6 months you should be able to learn a skill, but for 3 years we're making you learn a skill. So you can learn carpentry, you can learn plumbing. It's only obtainable now and marginally in our technical schools. We lost it at that level. The developmental level is between JS1. The preparatory level is at the basic level. That is primary 1 to 6. The developmental level is the JS1 to 3. And we go to the transition level. The transition level prepares you for the tertiary institution. Now, the transition level has been faulted because there is lack of commitment on both the side of the student and on the side of the teachers, especially with the last 2-3 decades, where the use of the aiding and abating of examination malpractices has become proliferated along L levels. Even staff of WAEC and NECO, JAMB officials, principals, especially in private schools, with the proliferation of private schools, the essence of that transformational and transitional part of your education, that between grade 9 and grade 12 or primary SS1 to SS3 became lost. The value system became degraded, and our educational sector started to suffer for it. And we were laughable when people could just go and start purchasing WAEC results. And I mean, the system started marginal. The biggest mistake we made in the educational sector was the fact that the system started appreciating paper qualification over skills acquisition or competence. That's where the white man was different. Let me tell you something. When I was growing up, we found that we had carpenters that were coming to Shell Estate in Warri to work, that were Dutch, that were British. They were not. We were treated as expatriates because of their skills. I don't know if you get my drift. They were treated as expatriates because of their skills, not because of their paper qualification. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I was young then, but I can't remember this word paper qualification. But they were treated as expatriates because of their skills. They are plumbers that were whites, carpenters that were whites, and that is where, if you carry your paper qualification now and go to, I'm a mechanical engineer. If I am a mechanic fixing my car now, go to the UK, for example, right now, and we look for job, he's going to get a job first before me. Why? Because of the practicals. He didn't go to school. He learned it on the job, on the job. He got developed on the job every day. So its capacity for him to get the job is the coefficient is higher for him than for me, because it's more practical than myself. Let's not deceive ourselves. I'm going to the tertiary level. 90% of those practical courses in the universities are truly not reflective. We can't compete with people that are truly practice it. Like the comparison between our qualification here and their qualification there is different, because theirs is practical based, and the qualification in polytechnics for me is right in technical courses. I mean, it's why I appreciate polytechnic engineers and polytechnic med lab scientists and name it are more practical than us, but we give relevance to university qualifications, which is where we have a disadvantage, and that is where the problem started. The overemphasis by the government and its agencies and employers for employee status to be based on your paper qualification is eroding the essence and the value and that creative edge that we need to overcome the anomalies within the educational system.
I think we'll pause there, meanwhile. Yeah, he said quite a lot, especially as it has to do with the need for education to solve problems. Education should be practical. education should be able to be focused at solving problem. There is an area that I will want Mary to please help us out from from Abuja, and that has to do with the argument with respect to should education remain a social responsibility, in which case it is the responsibility of government to educate its citizens and have it free of charge. But somebody has also had to say that if you consider that education is expensive, then please you go and try ignorance. You'll find out that ignorance is far more expensive. We had a time where there were a limited number of people in the university, and they as you're getting in, you're being given your meal ticket, and people were having one person to half a chicken and all that. In fact, when they reduce it to 2 persons to a chicken or half, that was one of the reasons that caused the first strike, the first riot. But from then till now, we have had broken calendars and all that. Then the issue of ASU has come in, and again the reflection of that the standard of an education can be seen in the recipient. When you talk to some of the products, you know, my friend, a mechanical engineer, has said now that most of the things he was exposed to in his engineering class were such that they ended up giving him a paper qualification, theoretical, and he was not adequately, sufficiently exposed to the practicals. And as such, that has a way of limiting how he can profile engineering solutions mechanically. So, Mary, where did we actually get it wrong? You have told us of a minister who said we have communities that are villages and they have land which they are not utilizing. We are also appalled when we get some of the last time I encountered a member of the NYSC was when I went to vote in one of the polling stations. And I found out that the copper that was apparently a graduate of Nigerian University was finding it difficult to even communicate, and some of those basic things. Where did we get it wrong with respect to our quality of education? Why has it so nosedived that now there is a preponderance of preference for people to sell their property to send their children to other countries where they think their education can be of more impactful and bent towards solving solution? Over to you, Mary, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Obaka. First of all, you've talked about people having the interest or the need to travel, right, to school. But the truth is, apart from school, naturally, Nigerians always believe that anything coming from the white is the best. I think I was telling that the quiz yesterday. We always have this mentality that we have to travel to another country to get the best, which is a wrong listed motive. It's not like we don't have good schools in Nigeria. I know that talking about government schools, we expect the government to actually make it worthwhile for us. But we've got a lot of private schools, right, that are doing well, whether we like it or not. There are British schools in Nigeria here. Not all our ministers that will say their children are schooling outside the country. No, there are some expensive and good schools here in Nigeria that even the white people are the ones teaching them, even in the primary level, secondary, and universities that are here in Nigeria. The only thing I'll tell you is it is not something that is affordable by all. Now we have a lot of children, right, that are out there that they are not going to school, not because they don't want to, but because the fund is not there to actually help them out, right, for them to be in schools. I feel like this is where the government should come in. Our money should not only be paid to local governments for nothing, or to be given to governors for nothing. The reason why they are there to work is to make this thing easy, right? Maybe for people in the local communities that cannot access some things in Nigeria, just like schools. That is not just about people going to school. It should be worth it. Now let's leave that part of we just want to go to school and study. We just want to go to school and read books. No. I think we should now introduce skills in our schools. When we are in school, and there are people that naturally it is easy for them to learn skills. Yeah, why there are people that they just want to study, the practical part can be so difficult for them. So if we introduce things like that, it will be so easy for them. Even people that cannot afford to go to universities, when they come out from secondary schools, they'll be able to have these things for themselves. And by so doing, there will be reduction in crime rates. Because the average person that finished secondary school today does not even know where to start from. You just have your SSC, but no skill acquired. You don't even know where to start from. And whether we like it or not, not everybody will be able to access university levels. So the government should actually see the need of introducing this. Why I say the government is, I'm talking about the government schools. I feel like some private schools are doing well already, whether we like it or not. We might not know, but there are good private schools here in Nigeria. So I'm saying the government should introduce these skills, technology. Let's see how we can introduce it. Entrepreneurship. Yes, there are people that in their line they love business. Teach them these things, because when you teach them, they're in school, they already learned it. It will be they will definitely be different from those people, right, that didn't go to school. And our teachers in our school should inculcate the spirit of creativity. Let's learn to be creative, because it is when the teacher is creative, that is how they can still teach the students how to be creative. But if the teachers there in the school that are teaching the students are not, if they are not being creative, how do you expect the students to be creative? That's my take in it, sir.
Okay. There's something that actually bothers me. We have a generation of leaders now that they were the major beneficiaries of the policies of that you referenced in your opening salvo, talking about the Jakonde. Jakonde, as a UPN governor of Lagos State, the Babs academies of this world, they had to make it morning shift, afternoon shift, almost night shift, because they needed to. Two things are very vital, we are told, in education: quality and access. If you have quality education, like some of the private universities are trying to do, but it's not accessible, there is a default. And if you have education that is accessible and it lacks quality. So we had the Jakondes of this world. We had Professor Ambrose Ali of blessed memory. We still can remember him with the university that is doing great in Epoma, especially in certain faculties. But the generation that benefited from these lofty programs today appear not to be so keen about how to use education to address our current situation. And I begin to wonder. Then you get to some federal institutions, I mean the universities in focus, and you find out that the facilities, the infrastructure have so broken down, and you see broken down windows, and you see toilet facilities that you ask yourself, can human beings live here? Are we breeding beasts, or we are breeding leaders of tomorrow? So I want to find out from you, where did we get this breakage between a generation that benefited so much, the fasholas of this world that benefited so much from free and impactful education, and today we have the Tinubu administration that has come up with policies about giving out loan to students in the university, and they end up as policies we hear in the air and in the media, and we can't identify students who have benefited from this loan, because they told us that whether you are from a poor family, you can benefit from these education loans, and that they are not grants, they are loans, and that when you finish and you start working, they follow up on you and you'll be able to pay back, so that we can get a situation where people are not made not to receive education purely because they didn't have the means for it. But how come that we are before a generation of leaders that appear to be bent on having people living in squalor and ignorance? Please, Engineer Misha, can you throw light on that?
Thank you very much. Incidentally, It's a very, very unfortunate situation that we found ourselves. Contrasting scenarios. I mean, the leaders of today benefited from the policies of the past. But I love us to have a balance so that our listeners can come to comprehension the reality on ground. In 19 in pre-independence and post-independence, when we had the oil boom, we had 1 naira to $1 50 cents or $1 100 cents or so. The naira was stronger than the dollar at that time, and the population of Nigeria was less than 30 million. And there was so much money, and that was why majority of them, after secondary education, most of these leaders we have today went on government scholarship because they were very minimal in number, and it was easy. We had few universities during the oil boom, UNN, Ibadan, the initial premier universities, and they were not as filled or in population as we have right now. So there was a big gulf. I remember, yes, most of them when they come on motivational talks, they try to give us the feeling of there's hope, but hope in a hopeless leadership situation. The truth be said, yes, they enjoy the meal tickets, fried chicken, even when you go to some military personnel parade in India every September, then when you see how they live, you know that life can be made good for the common man. But our leaders have decided otherwise. Now, with the evolution of population boom, the pressure and the fall of the naira in value in relation to the dollar, the pressure became very overbearing on the economic players, and they started borrowing and started looking. The oil boom era came with a diversion from our geopolitical and regional strengths, economic strengths, into overdependence on oil. And that created a lacuna in developmental rights for the people. It created a template of decadence of not just the educational sector, but so many other sectors. But most importantly, the most affected and the most impacted negatively was the educational sector. These are leaders who had jobs waiting for them. Presently, these are leaders who benefited from their secondary school till their doctorate degree on government expense. They now came back, instead of impacting on the people and on the economy, they decided to plunder, to go anti-clockwise from what they learned in the UK, because most of them went to schools in the UK. When they learned in the UK and America, to plunge this economy into the abyss that we found ourselves today. The creative edge we're looking out for as cannot be established with an educational system that's better than a faulty foundation. The policies are retrogressive. Yes, Mary made references to some very good very good universities, private universities, but the accessibility is the problem. You and I, there's a lot of white administrators, white teachers in so many institutions in Abuja and Lagos that I know of. But then, how many true Nigerians can afford it? It's very few. It's mostly the elite who say they bring the Montessori school style schooling to Nigeria, and it can only be afforded by people who earn salaries in 6 digits, or people who have taxpayers' money at their mercy to be plundered. The political elite, the nobles rich, who can do anything and get away with it in this country. Moving forward, we are faced with a proliferation of universities. Now, it is not just about the creative edge we're looking at for, is the entrepreneurship skills that need to be learned in the universities. They need to create a template that we own. Every human has an innate skill. When you look at, if you did GST, they said when we were born, that our minds is a tabula rasa. Tabula rasa means clean slate. It is what you write on a slate that stays there until you clean it up. But our mind is extensive and elastic. There is no man, no human being that does not have qualities. But the qualities can only thrive in an atmosphere. Like you cannot expect to plant and expect it to grow during the dry season the way if you plant, the way it will grow during the rainy season. Your skills needs nurturing. Your skills needs owning. You need to weed around where you have planted. And that is what entrepreneurial skills are all about. Until you start it, you will not know how good you are in something. A lot of people that are broadcasters today say, I can't talk in front of a television. I'm scared. I can't write. I'm not a good writer. But most of them are very good writers, columnists in newspapers. They are great broadcasters today because they took that first step. But if you wait on the system, the Nigerian government, contextual as it is right now, will not encourage you. And that's what we're asking the government to do. We lack that creative and cutting edge because the government have placed so much emphasis. The cutting edge is that thin line that separates a true skilled graduate from an unskilled graduate. There's a difference. Going to school, everybody can go to school. And what does, look at today, 90% of our keke riders in Asaba and all over Delta State, and I think beyond other states, are graduates. I've seen most of them that are master's degree. Even I met someone as a PhD holder. Why are you doing this? They said there are no jobs. Education should be a transformative alignment with the realities on ground. The government, there should be a policy progression in the educational sector, where from the basic education to the transitional education to the tertiary, to secondary to the tertiary education, there will be jobs, not civil service jobs, entrepreneurship jobs. The overdependence on the civil service job has created the overdependence on paper qualification, where there's no creativity, where there's no cutting edge ability. So we are restricted by policies of government and bad leadership, round pegs in square holes and square pegs in round holes, not having that ability to understand that times have moved from analog system of administration and governance to digital system of administration. We have become static as a nation, especially in the educational sector.
Engineer, thank you so very much. Thank you very much for throwing in that level of light. I hope Mary is still with us in Abuja, because we want her to address the issue of what is education without research. What is education without research? Considering that research is meant to solve problem. No nation ever develops without research. Research is what gives education a creative edge. But somebody will want to ask, is there anything wrong with our value system? Engineer, why, for instance, will a university professor apply and get a research grant, and instead of using it for that purpose of research, he plugs this into maybe building a house for himself in the village? Perhaps he's already thinking of where he will retire to, or marrying one of his students, or
building a hostel near the school.
Or building a hostel, because he's already beginning to think, if I retire, what is going to happen? That also takes us to another dilemma of their remuneration. Is their remuneration commensurate with the kind of effort? And what is the link of this with the issue of brain drain? Because I send my child to study in Canada, and I struggle with a foreign exchange. And lo and behold, he gets to Canada, is my kingsman. and my former colleagues in the university in Nigeria here that he is going to meet there, who are going to train him. You know, so it's not natural, it's not anything about the skin. Some of these lecturers that they are going to be exposed to there are not necessarily white, but they are our kinsmen here and women who have changed environment because they are better remunerated there. If we can't get across to Mary in Abuja, I will want engineer to throw some more light on this. What is education without research? Why is it that some of our professors divert their research grants? And does this have anything to do with the poor remuneration that they have? And this issue of brain drain, that our best are rendering services and are bringing up another generation of entrepreneurs that are leading in the economies of the other nations. And here we are struggling with a very poor state of education. Do we have a way out of this very negative trajectory?
Very negative trajectory indeed. The education sector is so structured to fail because now we talk about, let me start with the issue of research grants from international donor agencies and all that. You can only do research. Now, if we were to broadcast in this studio now, and we come, the click lights are not here, the camera marginally faulty, although they have paid us to come and broadcast, for example. There's no way you can be effective and productive without the tools I've made available to you for effectiveness and efficiency. That is basically what it is. Yes, I have received the grant. The grant does not come with infrastructure. The grant is monetary to aid in probably doing one or two things. But I need physical structure to be able to transform and translate this grant into profitable thing. I cannot be doing research, for example, without the infrastructure. We're researching on how to transform wind into renewable energy. I mean, there need to be, we need to get wind vane, there need to be an environment, a conducive environment and a conducive infrastructure and a conducive support net mechanism to aid that project and so many other projects like that. 90% of our public tertiary institutions, for me, are very, very obsolete. Very, very obsolete in terms of infrastructure and in terms of motivation. I remember that Chris made reference to some universities in the UK. They utilize the land that's available. A university can be built on 4 acres of land. But here you see a university on 200 acres of land and they don't even have a farm. A university in the UK, in Australia, and Canada, on that small 4 acres of land, we equally have a farm, could have a piggery, they could have a turbine, they could have an independent power source, for example. But yeah, with all this expanse of land available to so many of our higher institutions, not even one as a farm or a turbine, the physics department or the geophysics department do not have anything that is applicable to the course. The agricultural department or forestry department do not have anything feasible that's applicable to that course, and so many other departments like that. And the lands are left vague. There's no form of recreation that even can be financially earning to the university. And those are areas where we need to look at it. The grants, that the diversion of the grants is optional. And it is a creation of the economy. You and I know that 95% of people presently in this country, if they are given grants, even people that collect housing loan, they divert it to use for something first. They don't normally put it in the housing. People that borrow from their cooperative, the same thing. The exigencies of living, of being in Nigeria and of living in Nigeria are so compressing on Nigerians, on individuals, that it is difficult as a people to truly reflect on the Nigeria that you want. These grants will be diverted because even when you look, the people are appreciated. How can you tell me now? Look at with this scenario. Big Brother Africa will give you close to 100 million. Somebody that overall best graduating student in a higher institution, maybe the highest will get is 2 million or 1 million or thereabout. Meanwhile, people that stayed in an enclosure for like 3 months or thereabout, they are winning that kind of amount. And so many other stuff like that. I found that an academic pursuit in terms of research or in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity or cutting edge is not as appreciated in this country as something to do with entertainment or showbiz or for something. We don't encourage intellectual content and capacity. And that is why a professor at university done that is given a grant for research will not go do that research. Now, talking about research, it's so appalling when you see that so many PhD holders in this country today never did research, but they are PhD. PhD is supposed to be a research-based qualification, research-based qualification from your masters. But most you will see politicians that you see them every day in their House of Assembly, you see them every day in government. Tomorrow, you say a school is graduating and they are wearing robe and tell you they just graduated with their PhD. You laugh at our educational sector. Educational sector has become bought over because of the proliferation. Now, the research area can only be achieved if government plugs in more money. Funding, since I went to university till I graduated till date, the issue has always been with funding. And the government, they don't seem to come to a common ground on the issue of funding. The lecturers go on strike, the government, they go to a negotiating table, later it's swept apart. Now, my major question is this. Is it not the bourgeois in the academic sector? They help in the rigging, or rather, let me not call it rigging, the announcement of these people. Why didn't they hold them into commitment that, look, before we announce this result, promise us, because all the INEC returning officers are professors. The INEC chairman is a professor. So the educational sector created the leadership we're having today. Because even whether through cohesion, through force, or through collaboration, they announced names of people that didn't win elections. That is aside. But moving forward, we're looking at the system of research-based grants that are not being utilized for its purpose. It is the poverty in the land. The poverty in the land is at a level where they cannot. You are a professor. You have not even built a house in the city where you live. You are still staying in the campus accommodation. You have not built anything in your village, for example. Then a grant comes, like $20,000 grant. My brother, the first thing that will come to your mind, let me have a roof over my head. Why?
That's the first research.
That's the first research. Let me have a roof over my head first. That's the first thing that will come to mind. Because you now look at it, even when the grants, how many doctoral students are research students? Most of them don't do research. I beg, Prof, do the research for me. How much it will cost? We have monetized.
I think that you made that point when you stated right here that we have placed emphasis, if not overemphasis, on paper qualification. And so our education has made very limited impact. And our education has lost the creative edge. And so we find out that we are churning out people with titles and certificates who cannot impact positively on the society. And that is the very essence of this discussion and the current affairs program this morning on SRTV studio, both from London, Abuja, and Nigeria. Our focus really, it's Mary back now. Mary, yes, I'm seeing you. If you are hearing us now, there are about 63, if not more, private universities that have come on board, in addition to the federal universities and also the state universities. Since the inception of these private universities, what difference in values have they brought to the table? Please, can we get you from Abuja, please?
Okay, they've showed more seriousness, more concern for the students. Over the time, you see people that attended maybe all these federal schools. There's this challenge of maybe a course that you're supposed to study for like 4 years, they end up staying for 6 to 7 years. And for some people, all those time that the ASU strike is keeping them at home, they might not really be doing any other thing. They might not be doing something productive for themselves. Or because they feel like if I go into something, they might call up the strike and I might not be able to finish it up by that time. So by so doing, it tends to waste their time. Or you see the private schools, I know it's not affordable by all, but I think they take more time to teach the students. There are a lot of things you can't really do in private school, even as a lecturer. You have If you are not doing the needful, you'll be called to order. Lecturers don't misbehave in private schools. I'm not trying to hack private schools, but I feel like there's some level of accountability from lecturers to the owners of the school. But you see, in our federal or public schools, you things like that. You just do whatever you want to do. You understand? But yeah, in private institution, the students know that this is what they're expected to do, and this is what they are not expected to do. The lecturers know that this is what they're expected to do, and this is what they are not expected to do. So that's I feel like private schools have a kind of brought some level of change, right, in the country. Which I think federal schools should at least to some level adopt the system so that lecturers, right, can be so creative to the extent that they'll be able to teach the students the things that they need to know, the things that they need to do outside our normal the normal theory, outside them just studying. They should be able to be innovative. You understand? They should be able to be skillful. These are my thoughts.
I must say this. What I will try to do will be not to, so that I don't advertise them, not to mention the name of the university. But the first time that I drove into a university campus and went to their bakery and bought bread, was a private university. And I was also told that they had a section where they were manufacturing, where they were processing canned water and the rest other things. Some of our federal and state universities lack some of these entrepreneurial initiative, and all they are waiting is for
And I feel
allocation to
like
come.
one of the reasons is because they believe, and these are one of the things that is killing these students. They believe that because of their results, if I bring out my result, BSc, Federal University, anywhere I go to, you accept me. And that's why they can't think. If I bring out my result as a state university graduate, BSc, they first of all pick me compared to these private graduates, private universities graduates. And that is what the problem is.
Okay.
It's not all about
We
just like what
also
Dr.
aware
Engineer
of
Misha
a
said.
private university that insists. Yeah. You said
I feel like we should not
there are some.
people in Nigeria, we give so much levels to this results thing. No, why not see what these people can do, what these
Yeah,
students, what they
that's
have, what they can offer, instead of their
Exactly.
results. We want to pick people because they finished from federal universities when it is not even worth it. You can't see a private university lecturer giving the students conditions of if you don't buy my book, you fail. No, and you can't just pay a student for your own personal interest. You don't do your personal things in private schools. You're accountable. You need to be able to tell why the students failed. You understand? In fact, their aim is not for the student to fail, it's for the student to pass. But you see, in federal schools, they have a way of manipulating the students. I am not condemning them, but
Yeah, I think
students
that
going to
reminds
federal
one
school,
of
to
a
some
culture
extent,
that
they are
wasn't
trying.
existing
It's
at
not
some point, but currently that culture is existing. The culture of sorting. People sort their way to the next level and end up coming out with certificates, but it cannot translate in the quality of what they have. And as such, they cannot defend the
a student
certificate that they have.
that have an exam tomorrow. A student them know that you have exam to write tomorrow, but you're not studying. Why? Okay, the lecturer said we should pay maybe 20,000 for this course. You understand? So why will I read? Even if I read and I don't pay that money, I'll still fail. So what kind of I don't want to use a wrong word. What kind of mentality is that? So how do you expect these students to be up and doing? You're telling me that even if you read, you don't pay that he wants to use this time to go and start looking for the money. And this happened in University of Port Harcourt.
What that says is that our education is deformative.
Studying civil engineering. I looked at him and I said, what's your course of study? Civil engineering, and now you are not studying because you are looking for money, 20K to sort the lecturer. Tomorrow you come out and say you're a graduate of civil engineering. Is there even any level of practical? Practical.
You are designing something that will collapse.
You see, in the federal school, these are the things they tend to face in federal schools. I'm not saying intelligent students are not there in federal school, but they're not helping them to exercise that level of intelligence. They're making them believe that if you don't sort this course, you cannot pass. They're making them believe that if you don't do the things the lecturer wants, you cannot pass. So how do you expect that student that is intelligent to have that?
So students end up sorting their way through
level of intelligence
and are not able to solve the problems of society.
Yes.
I think, Mary, we might pause at that point now and go on a break. By the time we return, in addition to looking at the papers, we should be able to send a message to ASUU. Over the years, it's been ASUU on break, or ASUU on strike, ASUU on strike, ASUU on strike. And this is one of the reasons why you'll find out that the academic calendar is broken, and 4-year courses last for 8 years, 6 years medical courses last for about 12 years and all that. And because you don't want your child to spend time, unnecessarily over ASUU, sometimes you send them abroad. This is also one of the reasons why people prefer to go outside to study instead of studying in Nigeria. We need to send a message to ASUU. Are there no other ways of negotiating? Are there no creative ways of engaging with your employers in order to ask for better ways? Are there no more resourceful ways of university management? Must strike always be the be-all and end-all? I think that we will attempt to see how we can set an agenda on that, in addition to looking at the papers for the day. Thank you thus far, and see you at the other side of the program. Thank you. Okay, so Mary appears not to be on cue now, but the issue of ASUU and okay, is Mary back now? Yeah, let's go on break now. Let's go on break.
Looking for a home away from home in Abuja? Look no further than SRTV Shortlet Apartments. Our fully furnished apartments offers everything you need for a comfortable and relaxing stay. Unwind in spacious rooms with exquisite ambience. Cook delicious meals in our well-equipped kitchen and relax in our comfortable sitting rooms watching your favorite shows. And guess what? 247 Wi-Fi available. But that's not all. SRTV goes extra mile by providing a car to take you around town during your stay. No need to worry about navigating public transportation or hailing taxis. Explore Abuja at your own pace. Book your SRTV Shortlet apartment today and experience the perfect blend of comfort and convenience. You can reach us by calling this number 070-6237-9915 or 080-7082-7331.
Find your sanctuary in the heart of the city. Live the life you deserve in an exquisite apartment. SRTV Luxury Shortlet Apartment.
Looking for a home away from home in Abuja? Look no further than SRTV Shortlet Apartments. Our fully furnished apartments offers everything you need for a comfortable and relaxing stay. Unwind in spacious rooms with exquisite ambience. Cook delicious meals in our well-equipped kitchen and relax in our comfortable.
Nigeria Week London 2025. It's time to celebrate the pulse of Africa's most exciting nation. Nigeria Week London 2025 is coming to Hippodrome Theatre from July 24th to 26, 2025, showcasing the best in Nigerian arts, music, fashion, and investment opportunities. Whether you're looking to discover the future of real estate, explore Nigeria's culinary masterpieces, or get immersed in an electric Afrobeat performance, this is the event of the year. You can also join us for a film festival, cultural dance spectacles, and the recognition awards. Don't miss out on the business opportunities and cultural experiences waiting for you. Book your tickets now before they're gone on eventbrite.co.uk. Call or text +447 438 893 190 or 080 330 46768 or +447 459 071 747. Visit our website superiorradioandtelevision.com. Nigeria Week London 2025. Nigeria Week London 2025, celebrating the best of Nigeria, is partnered with Civil Society, scaling up nutrition in Nigeria.
Welcome back, viewers, and thank you for spending your time with us. Over time, it appears that in Nigeria, ASUU has become synonymous with strike. Yes, we can appreciate the poor funding in the sector. We can also appreciate the fact that they are one of the lowest paid workers in the sectors across the world. We can also appreciate the fact that there is a need for better funding for them and all that. But in the reality of our developing education sector, is there no alternative to the protracted and the seemingly unending ASUU strike that has made our educational sector to be so infamous? Engineer, let me start from you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Interestingly, I think it was last week or last 2 weeks, this question you asked was answered by Daddy Chris. And it's a very simple thing. It's the same problem that, or rather the same solution that we crave for this country. You're talking of the ASUU and government imbroglio will continue. Engineering is 5 years. We ended up spending almost 7 years because of ASUU strike. We had a lot of them in the 90s. Babangida must go strike, the SAP riots, we had all that. 6 months, we are home. I mean, children got tired of staying at home and of course, that's when the craving of drug abuse, crime and criminality started rearing its head, and that was when we had the proliferation of cultism. But however, moving forward, the fundamental solution, I'm going to pick on the fundamental solution first because before we deal on the issue with ASUU. The fundamental solution to this, that will get us out of this situation, is industrialization, or rather, like I call it, the universities need to go into self-sustainability. The universities need to look
How different is that from university autonomy? Should the autonomy be only in the emergence of their VC?
Yes,
and yet they want to be funded.
Yes, that's what I'm
saying. Where are the limits to university autonomy?
Now, that is where I'm going to. If, like we said, and you made reference the other day that if universities can generate their own power, if universities can have their own poultry, you said you went to a private university, you saw bakeries. The bakery is not just for feeding. The universities will sell bread. If universities can have their own bottled water factory, pure water factory.
Because you can't have a food and nutrition department and you are not processing food that members of the society can come in.
Universities can have cassava and they produce gari, they export cassava and they produce akpu. People start buying. They will depend less on government. The university can go into solar. You can't have engineering department that can't even produce solar machines or solar batteries or inverter batteries. What are we having engineers? So this is the research issue that we're talking about. The grants can be made available. Where are the manpower, the infrastructure for you to project and prepare this manpower to that level of efficiency? It is lacking. Now, the overdependence on government continue to allow government to utilize their executive power to manipulate. How can you, look, you are owing me, I come to you, Oga Obaka, that we go to a negotiation table, we now write an agreement. You say, this is how I will be paying you, this I'm going to be paying. And unfortunately, most of these demands of ASUU are not selfish demands, they are infrastructure demands. Infrastructure of our university. And my anger is this: the government continues to recreate new universities along political lines. Right Honorable Fred Odu says he wants a university in his community. Okay, Fred, you are a staunch member of the party, you brought votes to us, they will put one university in his community. They
It's
don't
a
look
project he attracted
yes,
for
they will not
his
give it
profiling.
for his profiling.
Yeah.
They say he attracted the university to the community. Comrade Ubaka attracted the university to his community.
Or a campus
Or a
of
campus
the
where he
law
said, yes.
or law school.
Then after 4 years, they will say that campus has been converted to a polytechnic or to a university without recourse to the viability. That is the most important thing. Is it viable? Is it ethically viable? Are we just doing it because of political gains? No, we should not do things like that. You see, I have never, since the last decades, in fact, I want to say, I think since 2007, I stopped empathizing with ASUU when government keeps deceiving them. Why do I say that? Majority of ASUU, I have found that a majority of our unionists, ASUU, labor leaders, and all that, they have used unionism as a bedrock for projecting their political ambition or for marketing themselves along political attraction. They use it to attract political patronage
At the detriment of their academic calendar and the future of the children.
Yes, that's what a lot of them do. Political patronage. And you see, a lot of times when I look at negotiations between most of these people and the agents of government, you shout hail and brimstone, but the moment you go into negotiation and come out, you say, okay, we have agreed with the government, the strike will be suspended. And you will not tell us, the people you represent, the reasons why the strikes are going to be called off. Why wouldn't I have the impression that probably you've been settled, that you are compromised in the line of duty? And the same as the major reason I don't subscribe to any form of empathy, I'm talking of as a personal decision though, on the part of ASUU, is because the reporters of the 36 resident electoral officers during the elections are academics. Reporters of them. The INEC chairman is an academician. And most of the results are aided. Most of the results they announce are not the true reflection of the voters' votes. And these INEC priest professors, these dons, aid and abet in the mismanagement of our voting and our voters' votes or whatever. So in that kind of, why didn't you negotiate with the people you bring into power? Later they will go to their back. That's why today I celebrate, I think, the Vice Chancellor of FUTU, that lady that was cajoled to say something else about, was it Imo State election or which state election? I can't remember now. But she stood her ground. She said she's not going to compromise. Yes, James Hadley Chase did say there's always a price tag. Everybody has a price tag. But when you are truly a man of integrity and content, it is difficult for them to get to the level of your price tag. Yes, we have men of quality, men of integrity, but majority of men can be bought. And that is what we see amongst our academic dons. They have thrown their ethics to the dogs, and that is the price we are paying today. It will be difficult unless, like you did say, the autonomy for the educational sector, university, I really cannot see it manifesting until we go back to true federalism.
Okay.
That we talked about when we're discussing Nigeria in greater context.
Okay.
Until we go back to true federalism, this educational sector that we are addressing today is embedded in what was put together by the 548 Nigerians across the board that sat down with taxpayers' money to the tune of 1.6 billion naira used, a trillion naira thereabout used, 1.6 trillion naira spent on the formulation of a policy that was never.
Yeah, it's like we are on with Mary now. So, Mary, please, what message do you have for ASUU? Because we cannot discuss. Yes, we have the basic education, secondary education, but the finisher actually is usually the university. And we are talking about the private universities, the state universities, and yes, some of the private universities have come up with a policy. They don't want their lecturers and their professors to unionize. Oh yes, they pay you and you deliver, and they set target for you and all that. But we still have state universities and private universities, and the ASUU, and it appears that whenever ASUU makes headline, it's not that any of their members has come up with a research initiative that will bring about a solution to a particular area of need of a nation. Whenever ASUU makes the headline, you know, it's most likely that they are threatening to go on strike. What message do you have for ASUU with respect to how we can have a more stabilized academic calendar in order to make our education more attractive, so that we won't be sending our children out because of the implication of that on forests?
Okay, the way they're always planning on going on strike, I don't know. I feel like they should also take time to plan on how they can make money, because it's not like there are no means whereby these lecturers can make money in schools. But just like what we've always known in Nigeria, that's dependence on the federal government and their allocation is another thing. So because we feel like we can make money from the federal government, that is why we don't want to do other things. So why not? What I would say is, let them start thinking of how they can be creative. That is the topic: need for creative edge. How they can be so creative in making money for themselves in schools, because there are every means whereby these schools can make money. I don't know. So what if we don't have this oil money that they are so dependent on? I don't know how we would have been making money, because I know that every other state, every other country, they make so much money in schools. Even in the UK, they'll tell you that they make so much money in schools. So why are we not making money in Nigeria? Why is it that every time we come up and say we want to go on strike? Why are the private universities not going on strike? Why is it that it has to do with the federal all the time? If they can start making money, right? Do you know that if they introduce all these skills that we are talking about, entrepreneurship we are talking about, they will not be crying today. They will not be thinking of how they can go on strike. And you see them in another dimension of, okay, we can make money in schools. Because even with the money they collect from handouts and all of that, you can see that it's still not enough for them. It's not like they don't collect money from handouts from students. They do. It's not like they don't collect money from sorting. They do, right? But it's because they feel like the ASUU as a board is the way that they always get money from the federal government. Let them start thinking of how to be creative. We should leave that stage of want to go on strike. Is it because whenever they go on strike, they now call them back again and you see how they can do issue? And I feel like if we stop paying attention to this ASUU and they're striking, they'll start thinking way forward for themselves. That's my take.
Okay, so education fundamentally should have quality. It should also be accessible. Those are the basic things. Then ASUU should see how to make our education to have a creative edge, because at the end of the day, an educational system that produces certificates and cannot solve societal problems it cannot be reckoned with in any part of the country. Then we should also expect to see more of the impact of the private initiatives in our education. I know of a private university that insists that if you're studying accountancy, for instance, in your third year, you should be chartered in ICANN. Otherwise, you can't go to final year. They can't graduate you you can't be graduated out of their accounting department if you have not been chartered while still in school. Whereas in some federal universities, you would have come out of accounting another 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you are struggling to be chartered. You know, so we must have effort to have quality so that at the end of the day, we are producing people who are problem solvers. If you went to school for 6-7 years to study medicine, for instance, you should be able to solve problem in that area and see how you can take that sector to the next level. And if you have studied law, of course, it should show in whichever way, whatever you have studied, let there be a practical dimension such that you are a problem solver, so that our education should be able to take Nigeria from where we are now to where we desire to be. And I think our message this morning to ASUU is that they should try to see how they can inculcate standard, ethos, ethics, and discipline to their members, so that their members will think less of how to stop from students. Yes, I think Mary, you're making a contribution. Can you take it up from there? Okay, so that their members should be able to, because no matter how wonderful a curriculum is, the implementer of that curriculum is the teacher, and is vital. The best curriculum with the poor implementer of the curriculum, you get a disaster on ground. So we should give a creative and entrepreneurial dimension to our curriculum. Our curriculum should not be disconnected from our needs. We have power need, how to generate power. And you go to the university, you spend 5 years studying engineering, and you are not able to, and the university on its own is still spending 80% of the grant they got, or the allocation they got from state or federal government to buy diesel. And they are still hooked to, I think it was a particular university that had issues of the amount they were given by BDEC to pay. Why shouldn't you generate? You are a community on your own. If you cannot sell out power to the town, you, the GAN, should be able to have the power with which you can, because you are a city on your own. You are a republic on your own. Those days at the University of Calabar, we used to say the place was Malabo Republic. That was why we didn't want the police of Nigeria to come in, because that was our own republic. But what is a republic when you can't take care of your security? Talking about security, the courts have infested a number of the universities, and that's one of the disincentive why some families that can afford it will say, no, I can't expose my child to that kind of environment. Then the academic calendar that is not stable, and your child is being extorted. After paying school fees, you now pay money for sorting and all that. So those are things we really need to. And for the lecturers who get grant for research and end up deploying it into marrying a third, fourth wife, I think that is very, very unethical. You should be able to solve the problem of society. We know you have a housing problem. You are thinking of where you will retire to. But that grant was not meant for housing. It was meant for you to be able to carry out that research so that you can come up with the result of that research. And we also call on investors. There is a particular polytechnic in Nigeria that has come up with a kind of vehicles that run on a particular kind of water. This is not about battery driven. I think Otefe Polytechnic. And up till now, they are still trying to see how to package it. There are foreign investors that are coming on and using water to drive a machine. I think that is very novel. But when you have such initiative and come out with them as invention, and you do not see those who can help you to patent it and mass produce it, to give it a commercial dimension, then of course it could lead to frustration. I think it's on that note that we want to get into the newspapers for the day. Let's look at the various papers this morning, their headlines, because like it's usually said, journalism is history made in a hurry. From the headline, we should be able to also see what direction is our nation going to and how can our nation do better than it's doing today. Mary,
okay,
please, the newspaper headline. Okay, let's start with Punch.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are. And we're also seeing Punch on the screen. 800 naira per liter petrol in sight as oil prices fall. That is the major headline. And I want to ask engineer, what is there to celebrate in this? What is there to celebrate that in the next couple of months? Because sometimes some of you are from there, and I'm still there. Some of our newsrooms are infiltrated. And I can't understand why Punch is using this as a major headline that let us celebrate that very, very soon, in the next couple of months, Nigeria will be getting better because a liter of petrol will be selling for 800 naira. So what are we to jump up and celebrate if this even comes to pass? For when you and I know that Jonathan was about to be crucified because he was said to have a hard plan of removing petroleum subsidy on petroleum, that was to make it go from 68 naira per liter to 90 something at about that time. So can somebody help throw light on this?
Well, you've made reference to said journalism is news in a hurry, and sensationalism is part of journalism. And with this is a catchy headline. You've been buying fuel, people have been buying for 980, 900. There's no difference with 800. But when people now see 800 naira per liter in sight as fuel prices drop, people will there's that catching. And
but is this drop significant enough? That's what I'm in the light of what we are going through as a nation.
The insignificance is,
and with what they promised us, that the coming of the Dangote refinery and that Warri refinery is back, Eleme is back, Kaduna will soon be back. That the going up was just for a moment. That is going to crash.
You didn't need to believe anything the politicians were telling you. These are people that lie to themselves. Somebody that can lie to himself or herself and tells you that kind of a thing. It's an instantaneous, an instant narrative. They will just tell you that because of what they want. They wanted your vote at that time. This is sensational reportage to attract. They want to Punch needs to sell. People will buy because they want to say, maybe it's Easter, maybe by next week it will be 800. Nigerians are so pained with, anything. We are the most enduring people on the face of the earth right now. With 800 naira a liter, when you tell a Nigerian that they've removed 20 naira, they want to have value that 20 naira that was removed from the price of something, no matter how insignificant it might be. We have more sensational news. The insecurity. In the last 2 weeks, 144 people have been killed in Benue and Plateau states. What is Tinubu still doing in France? If he was going there for bilateral issues, that would have been a better news report.
Peter Obi asked him to come back.
Yes, Mary, let's hear you, please. Mary, let's hear you.
Yes, I said Peter Obi asked the president to come back to the country. He should leave whatever he went to do in France.
Peter Obi asked him to
the
come
country
back.
is bleeding. Because you don't have this kind of sad stories in your country, and you're not coming back.
The anointing is that we're not even seeing. If you're having bilateral meetings with the French government, at least we should be reporting the bilateral. We should have visuals. But it is a clear indication what is happening. It is clear. There's no communication, no visual communication, no verbal communication. It's a clear indication that the man's health is in question.
That's true.
So there's something they're hiding from.
One of the honorable in Plateau State said,
these are diversionary. Dangote could have been told to help douse the tension in the land. Please throw the bait, throw the carrot in the water. Fuel. Yeah, you're going to start selling. Yesterday, I saw it was 835 that I saw. This morning, Punch is saying 800 per liter. But however, the most important thing is that Mr. President should come back to Nigeria. And you know the anointing about his visits. As a president and commander-in-chief, when you're visiting, you will transfer the state.
You transmit power to your vice through the National Assembly.
To the National Assembly.
But that he cannot do. And I think it's not responsible enough for a president to in NYSC they say they are declaring somebody a war, just to be away without permit, and you keep your citizens guessing. One thing is clear is the state. Yes, come up, please.
That is why one of the honorable there in Plateau State, who is a honorable Dachu Musa Bagos, he said that if the president cannot visit Plateau State, right, in times of this attack, them as Plateau people don't want to see him in the state for campaign during 2027 election.
Yeah, he
Because
will let her go for campaign. He
that's
will
the
let her
truth.
go for campaign. Campaign is far more important than the lives of Nigerians.
What about the vice president? The Plateau state have suffered a lot of attacks over the time. I think they need to start doing something about it.
It's
I
Plateau
don't
and
know.
Benue
As long as they
talking
are,
about the
as long as they
bloodletting
are,
in that.
they keep suffering from attacks all the time. I don't know. They need to do something. And it looks as if we're just so quiet about the whole situation. How can people tell me that this killing is a normal thing? No, we can't adapt to this kind of system. Because if they continue like this, then
Okay,
maybe
Mary,
everybody
from the petrol price,
Yeah.
if you look at Punch there, those photographs on the front page of Punch, incidentally, they also made the front page of Vanguard. They appear to be the photographs of protesting women in Port Harcourt. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
You know,
sir.
so we had the first set of protesters, women, who were protesting
So now
against
for
the
protesting in Port Harcourt, though. This opportunity come but once.
the
You see a
first
lot of
set of
protests.
protests were against the state of emergency. Then
Yes.
the sole administrator organized another protest, which people say pro-Wike protest, in favor of the state of emergency. So this is about the third round. The women of Rivers are saying no, it is unjust to have a democratically elected governor out of office for 6 months. So what do we say about this? Must women be rented for protest over and over again? And if you check out the faces, some of them, apart from the white that the pro sole administratorship protesters had, you know, some of them are about the same set of people that are being rented for this manner of protest. When will we live beyond this kind of somebody will want to call it political slavery?
Yeah, the truth is that is what we talked about education. Thank God we started with such a very topical issue. Education is power. Education is knowledge, and education gives you, that is, if you want to, gives you the capacity to be relevant, and you will not be able to be manipulated. These are people that have become gullible because of they put themselves in a state of relative pawns on the chessboard of the ruling oligarchs. If you look at those crowds, the crowds for pro-Wike and the crowds for pro-Fubara, you will see marginally you have almost the same kind of people. It is about money. When Benjamin talks, 10,000 will come over, they will give us Rapa, they will give us 10,000. They will follow the pro. The next set will come. Fubara people don't come meet us yesterday as women leader. They say we arrange women. They will give us Rapa, they will give us 20,000. They will go. And that is why we continue to be impoverished as a people, as an electorate. We continue to allow the politicians to pauperize us, we allow them to take dominance of our thinking, our thoughts line, and we allow them to manipulate our sense of reasoning because of greed, because of avarice. We want to collect from here. I mean, we're sold to the gallery. We need to change this narrative. If you are fighting a cause, fight it holistically with an ideologically based cause, not a cause that, I remember during the protests, immediately after I was removed from office, there was some women that they asked, why are you here? He said, no, say they tell and say, Fubara, who be Fubara? And no, it wasn't Fubara, it was Natasha and Akpabio issue. They were asking the woman, you don't know what they cause trouble between Natasha and Akpabio, but they just brought you there to come and I felt ashamed for this country. I felt ashamed for some Nigerians that at the slightest availability of money, 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira, you just go and make a mockery of the nation, make a mockery of yourself, make a mockery of your gender, and you expect the transformation to come. The people have seen. That's why the politicians will continue to try. They continue to manipulate us. They know how these people are pauperized. They will come with the carrot and they will always buy the carrot. which the carrot is hunger. They will come with money to quench your hunger for the moment, not for a lifetime.
Okay. So, Mary, is it possible we go through Vanguard now?
Vanguard, yes.
Vanguard, yes. Yes.
Okay.
The major story there is talking about insecurity worsens as herdsmen kill 144 in Plateau and Benue in 14 days. 144 people bloodletting in the Plateau in 14 days. And we have a president who is responsible enough to remain in France while all this happen to be going on. That's the major story, the lead story in Vanguard. And top right side of the Vanguard, 2027 PDP governors Atiku's coalition differ over fronting for Tinubu. Yes, the Atiku is pro-coalition, hoping that possibly he could emerge the flag bearer of that coalition. But the governors are saying no, they need PDP to remain a distinct political party that should be able to develop its own internal democracy and attract people who will defect and come over, and they will need to constitute a formidable opposition and see how they can wrestle power from APC. But Atiku's group is saying that they are moles, that they are fronting for Tinubu, talking about the governor of Oyo State and the other governors, that they are in one way or the other trying to weaken PDP for Tinubu to have an easy run through in 2027.
Well, I no longer see PDP.
What does that portend?
I don't see PDP as a political party anymore because it's already been weakened. So if they say it's a mole, I'm not going to be surprised. Wike has already infiltrated them. I listened to Indume, I think earlier on this morning on one of the programs, a regular program that happened yesterday also. He made reference. It got back and Wike saying Wike has one leg in PDP, one leg in APC, but the longer of the two legs is in APC. And the truth is, yes, that is the idea of politics. Our politics practice in Nigeria is not the politics of interest, not the politics of ideology. So everybody is projecting his own interest. A lot of people have seen how this is going to be next year, and they know that yes, this is how it's going to look like, and they are working towards it. And of course, I am believing that it's going to be very, very difficult if we don't get it right this time to see that we need to do what is right, and we need to start calling a spade in this country.
Yeah.
People need to understand that our politicians should show integrity in what they do. They should practice less of self-politics and practice people-oriented politics that will benefit the generality of the people.
Mary, on the front page of Vanguard, we have this story. Power Minister blames past governments for poor electricity supply. How long more will we continue to fall back on this blame game? I think it was yesterday that Umeha on one of the front pages was saying that the Tinubu administration received a government that was on a life support, an economy that was on life support, you know. So today, the power minister is saying that they received, that whatever we have to say about the power, even up until now, we should direct the blame to the previous administration. That minister blames past governments for poor electricity supply. How long more will we continue to blame the past if we cannot continue from today to solve our problems, to guarantee a future for our children? What's your take on that, please?
If we cannot work hard, if we cannot look for how to solve the problems, we'll continue to put blames on other people. And the next one, we still come and blame these ones, right? We don't see the need to work in this country. That's the problem. As long as we don't want to create solutions to the problem and see how we can end whatever issues, we'll continue to blame the past government. If you are here already and you are blaming the past government, what difference does this make? Are we going to keep moving backward in life. There's this saying that forward never, backward never. Why not think of how your own regime can change the situation? Okay, it wasn't done right in the past. How can you make it right? How can you make the wrong right? Now, these are. I wish we can start adopting that kind of system. We will not be here blaming not only this the power sector, every other sector. That's what they do. When you come to power, even in the seat of the president, they tell you that the issue they have is from the past government, from the past regime, and that is the problem. Why not think of how you can solve it? When you are planning to be there during the election, you're not thinking of how you can lead us, right? Because of no adequate planning, and that's where the problem is. If we can start planning, we'll not be here complaining. So that's it. That's my take.
Thank you so very much, Mary. Thank you so very much. I will be ending on this note. Senator Adeyemi urges Tinubu to immortalize Christian Chukwu. You remember Chairman Christian Chukwu? Well, this happens to be a nation that takes the best of you. You remember the last time that he was very, very sick, and NFF was saying that they are not owing him and all that and all that. He was the captain of the national team. He also became the technical advisor and the coach and all that. But it appears that he ended up in penury. What inspires you in a nation that gets the best of you when you are relevant, and there is no social security
I would
towards the end?
I would answer your with the reference you made when we're talking about the educational sector. An international organization gives you grants for research, but instead of using the grant, you divert it for your own personal use. That should answer your question. Why? Because the system does not recognize hard work. Instead, how can you look at what politicians take home? Look at the furniture allowance they take every. Do you change furniture every year? You change dress every month. So it doesn't encourage. These are the kind of. That's why selfless service to a nation like Nigeria is retrogressive in your old age.
So that's the trajectory we actually need to change, so that we don't end up lamenting. We don't end up in the present quagmire of a nation that thinks only for the now and not projecting into how a future can be better. I think it's on that note we call on Mary. What's your closing remarks as we close this, as we attempt to close this edition?
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Misha. Thank you, Mr. Obaka, for your analysis on the show. Nice one.
Thank you.
All I will say is Nigerian education is very important. We are talking about first two things are important in the country. Education should not be left out. So I think we should start having lecturers, right, that can think of how the educational sector can be so creative, how they can make money, how the students can learn the practicals of what they are being taught, so that they can do something for themselves. How we can start thinking of, the thing is, when you talk about technology in Nigeria, we are lacking behind. How we can start introducing technology, right, in our system. How we can start introducing skills in our system, entrepreneurship. If we start doing this, definitely the educational system will change. If you ask me, I would say maybe even our elders, when they attended school, I think it was like as if it was even better compared to now, because then it was looking like a secondary school graduate was a kind of more appreciated compared to the university graduate of this day. So what is happening? It looks as if the educational sector is diminishing. No, it's not supposed to be like that. So let's see how we can improve in the educational sector. Not just as to say they want to go to strike. What have they been doing over the years? What have they been doing to make change? So let's see how we can make the educational system in Nigeria better by being creative.
Thank you so very much, Mary. We heal our education, and ultimately we heal our land. I also want to thank you so very much, Engineer Misha, for your worthy contribution towards this program. We want to ask you, let's do it again. This is SRTV studio, and hopefully Daddy Chris will be back anchoring from UK. But for now, we want to thank you for spending your time with us and tagging on with us on the online platform. Thank you so very much. Tomorrow, let's do it again and do it better. Thank you.
Nigeria Week London 2025. It's time to celebrate the pulse of Africa's most exciting nation. Nigeria Week London 2025 is coming to Hippodrome Theatre from July 24th to 26, 2025, showcasing the best in Nigerian arts, music, fashion, and investment opportunities. Whether you're looking to discover the future of real estate, explore Nigeria's culinary masterpieces, or get immersed in an electric Afrobeat performance, this is the event of the year. You can also join us for a film festival, cultural dance spectacles, and the recognition awards.